You're probably already asking AI for advice on things like pricing, strategy, and maybe even bigger things than that. But here's the thing with AI and LLMs is that they can quietly be wrong and still give you a very confident answer, and you've got no way of knowing. I've worked as an AI consultant for the UK government where bias and accuracy were a massive part of the job. So get that wrong and we're talking millions of dollars or pounds lost. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can catch bias that may be hiding in your AI's answers. We'll go through why AI ends up biased in the first place, how we're going to fix that, and we're going to compare our method to a single AI's answer and see how they differ. If you're new here, I'm Tom. I teach business owners how to use AI more effectively and actually build AI systems for them. So that's enough about me. Let's get into the video. The reason that a lot of the AI models that you might be interacting with on a day-to-day basis, so things like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, may give you biased or confident responses that aren't quite accurate, is because that's how they're trained to do so. They're trained to be helpful and agreeable. Now, for small or low impact decisions, a biased answer might not be too big of a deal. But if you're asking about something that's very complex or requires a strategic decision, then having something that has actually considered all different angles is very important rather than something that just agrees with your opinion. Now, the fix to this problem is an idea called the LLM Council, and it's an idea that Andrej Karpathy, who's one of the leading figures in the AI space, came up with. The thinking behind the LLM Council is to, instead of just asking one model, like ChatGPT, a question and receiving an answer and going forward with that response, you actually answer multiple models at the same time. They debate each other and then give you a final conclusion in an answer. Each model in this LLM Council actually takes a specific role and they peer review each other's answers anonymously. Then a final chairman model reads everything and gives a final answer. So to set this LLM Council up is quite simple. We're going to go to Andrej Karpathy's GitHub repo where he's got it stored, and that will be linked in the description below as well. We're going to open a Claude Code workspace, and then we're going to install that GitHub repo onto our space. So I'm going to show you how to do that step by step. Okay, so heading on over to Karpathy's GitHub repo. It's quite a simple repo here. It's not too complicated, but it has a backend where all of our processing happens. And he actually developed a front end as well for us to interact with this LLM Council. And you'll see what that looks like in just a moment. But essentially the idea is here, like I explained, we have different models as you can see on screen and a final chairman model that takes all of their answers into account and gives a final conclusion considering all different perspectives. Now we're going to grab the URL that we've got here, just copy that, and we're going to head on over to VS Code and open a Claude Code workspace. So once you've headed on over to VS Code, you want to create a folder. You can name it whatever you want. I've just named it test2 for the purpose of this video. And this is where all of our folders are going to sit from this repo that we're going to install. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Claude Code and VS Code, I've got a video where I show you how to set that up. So I'll link that on screen somewhere, but it's an easy setup. It will take you 2 minutes to do. Once you have that set up, we're going to open up a new Claude Code session in our workspace here, and we're going to get it to essentially install everything that's on that GitHub repo into our local workspace so we can use it. So we're going to hit on new session, and we're literally going to drop the prompt that I've got on screen here, which is go and look at this repo, understand it, and install it into our workspace so we can use it. I'm going to change this onto bypass permissions because there's nothing really very sensitive that we're doing here, and we're going to hit send. Okay, so while that's working away, installing the GitHub repo on our local space, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go and ask a single AI, ChatGPT, a simple question, and we're going to see what its response is just from one AI, and then we're going to compare that response to our new LLM Council. Now over here on ChatGPT, and I've put in a very simple business question into a single AI model, and we're going to see what the response is like. Now I want to say here that even though we're asking one single AI model a question and we're getting a response, that may still be very similar to the answer that our LLM Council gives us. But even though the final output might be the same, it doesn't mean that the whole process and thinking behind it was. And if you're doing this for a more complex scenario that has a load more context to it, then it may be so that you actually get a different output out the other end. But nonetheless, we're going to run through this answer that the AI model is given. So we asked it a very simple question. We said, I'm in the early stages of running a cookie business. My margins are already very tight, but my main competitor charges premium prices. I feel the only way I can get customers is because I'm cheaper, and if I raise my prices, they will all go to my competitor. What should I do? So this is a very strategic, pricing focused kind of question. And we're going to see what its response is. It's gone through a few different points here. It's mentioned to consider the first thing, which is if we actually have a price problem. Don't try to beat the competitor at price. It said raise prices selectively, so a bit of a strategic pricing kind of standpoint. work out the numbers behind all of our costs, consider a good, better, best range. So again, a kind of pricing strategy. So a few different outputs. So it's actually a pretty good answer for a single AI model. Heading back on over to our VS Code session where we're installing our LLM Council, we've got a question from the AI, which is basically saying that it needs an OpenRouter API key. So if you haven't used OpenRouter before, it's essentially one platform which connects all of your different AI models together. And instead of having multiple different API keys that you need to install, you can just go and grab one and it connects multiple different models together. So we're going to say that we want to add this ourselves. So we're going to go on over to OpenRouter, grab an API key. I'll show you how to do that now. And then we're going to put that into our .env file, which you can see is hiding over here. So we're going to head on over to openrouter.ai. You want to set up an account if you haven't already, and then go to get API key here. And then literally we want to hit on create a new key. Name it whatever you want, put an expiration on it if you want, and then click create. And then copy that key and then head on over back to VS Code. When you're back in VS Code, go on over to your .env file, click on it, and then paste in the API key that you just created here. And once you've done that, let Claude know that your API key is in and that you want it to open up the front end. So the same question about running a cookie business, we're going to hit send off to this, and you're going to see there's different stages that this runs through compared to our single AI answer. I've just gone and run this question in the LLM Council and it's gone through stage 1, which is fine, but I've noticed that it's run into an error. And the reason is because the repo is a little bit out of date. It's about 9 months old or so, and access to the other models that it was asking, so Gemini, I believe it was a little bit out of date. So we just need to go back to our VS Code and get it to fix this. So I literally just went to VS Code, took a screenshot of my screen, and I said I seem to get an error when asking a question, why? And it's gone through all of this, and you can see that, the live model catalog was slightly out of date. So it's just saying use the latest models instead. So we're going to click on that option. Now our web app is hopefully fixed. I'm going to paste that question in again, and we're going to fire it off and run through its answer. All right, so it's run through all our different models and it's gone through 3 or 4 stages here. So the first stage is individual responses. So this is where the council sends the question off to all our different models here. So GPT, Gemini, Claude, and Grok. And it gets an individual response from each one of them. So you can see that they've all come up with their own responses here. Then stage 2 is peer ranking. So this is where each model evaluates all the other models. So you can see GPT has evaluated itself, Gemini, Claude, and the same for all the other models. They've all peer reviewed each other. And out of that has actually come a ranking. So we've got GPT has come on top, Gemini second, Grok third, and Claude Sonnet as the 4th best answer. Now the final stage is stage 3, which is the final council answer. And this is where all of the different answers from each of the models are put into one final chairman to give a final output. And you can actually see that the final conclusion isn't too far off the answer that our single AI model gave. It's saying you don't want to be the cheap option, you want to challenge your assumptions and diagnose your value, use smart pricing tactics. So I remember that was something similar that our ChatGPT answer gave. Evaluate your perceived value, optimize margins, execute a gradual transparent rollout. So pretty similar answers to our AI model. I would say that maybe this has more of an emphasis on increasing your perceived value. But regardless, the process and the methodology of using an LLM Council is still really valuable. It means that if we want to put a really context-heavy question into the LLM Council, it's probably going to give us a much better answer than one single AI model would. So a quick recap. We went over that the reason AI models are actually biased in the first place is not a bug, but it's actually how they're trained to be. And the way that we aim to fix this is with Andrej Karpathy's LLM Council theory, which brings in multiple different models, gets them to peer review each other, and comes out with a final output that considers multiple perspectives. But that's all from me today. If you want to book a free discovery call if you're a business owner, I've got a link in the description to do that. If you're new here, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. But that is all for this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.